Welcome to Solutions OP Clinical Trials Podcast. My name is Olga and I'm the Managing Director of Solutions OP. We are a small team of experienced professionals working on clinical trials in the United Kingdom. I'll use our podcast to discuss hot topics in clinical trials and provide analysis of the latest trends and challenges in pharma and medical device industries, not just in the UK but globally. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast. As I record this episode, the UK politicians are still debating the assisted dying bill in the UK. Now, it's a very complex topic which has been covered by many academics and journalists from different aspects, including religious, ethical, medical, legal, and so on. So everything's being covered. But in today's episode, I would like to look into a different perspective. And this is exactly how the assisted dying bill could affect the clinical research in the UK. And I hope that will be an interesting topic for some of you. I came across a research paper from Nuffield Health, which covered 9 countries where the assisted dying is legalized. And it showed that between 55 and 80% of the patients who requested this assisted dying had cancer diagnosis. And the age group of this patient population was between 69 and 80 years. So the main reason, according to this paper, to request assisted dying was loss of autonomy and inability to perform activities that people would like to engage with. As I said, it's a very complex topic, and I'll probably first touch a little bit on the medical ethics point of view. And the first and big challenge to me is the risk of coercion. We need to ask some valid questions like, can you really consent a person who is very, very vulnerable to something which is irreversible? In clinical research, we always insist on patients having an option to withdraw consent, to choose something else, just to have the freedom of choice and explore different options. And even if you think from a point of view of patients who had surgery, which is permanent procedure, these patients are still alive, they can change their mind and how their treatment will continue and so on. So they still have that option to make some choice even after a permanent procedure. But with the assisted dying, this is completely irreversible, and patients have no option to change their mind at a later stage. So to me, this is one of the biggest challenges in terms of obtaining consent for such procedure. But what effect could assisted dying have on clinical research in general? So I'm not sure if many people know, but most of the cancer clinical research starts with patients who are diagnosed with late-stage cancer. So the reason for this is because these patients have bigger medical needs, and usually there's no treatment options, or there are very limited treatment options into late stage of cancer. And that's why many pharma companies are trying to develop drugs that help patients with advanced cancer first. And then if that works, they try to bring it down to earlier stages of cancer. So if something has proven to work in advanced cancer, then they can move it into a second or first line therapy for that particular indication. But the natural pathway of developing oncology drugs have always been going into patients with more advanced disease and then gradually towards less advanced disease. Another complication and reason for this is unfortunately many of the cancers are diagnosed quite late. And as a general rule, we have a lot more patients with advanced cancer than patients in early stage of cancer. So the bigger population will be with the advanced cancer stage. And having patients with advanced cancer that we can offer new treatment options is really critical for drug development, and especially for rare cancers. So imagine if you have a type of cancer which is very rare, you want to include as many as possible patients to be able to study the disease and study how the drug will work. So it's critical to have access to this pool of patients, but also there are other benefits and challenges when it comes to assisted dying bio and clinical research and its impact. So, for example, offering assisted dying option to patients with late stage cancer will reduce their ability to access new treatments. So why? Because the assisted dying may look more appealing to someone who is vulnerable and doesn't want to be burdened to their family or their carers. And if we have to be very honest to ourselves, if someone wants to commit a suicide, we would not go and encourage that person to do it. So there's no reason to encourage people to do something when we know they're vulnerable and they're probably depressed and they're in that state where they might not necessarily make the best judgments for themselves. So I think it's very important that they are presented with all available treatment options instead of, in a way, given an option which for them might look like the only solution. Because the assisted dying is a permanent solution, these patients will never even become aware of new treatment options via research. As we discussed, the opportunity to change your mind is completely eliminated, so that there's no going back. And that's, to me, is a serious concern. So another important thing that we need to mention here is, while participating in research may not benefit the patients, the information that we can collect from treating different patients could be extremely valuable for the future patients and their treatment, and generally in developing new cancer treatment options. So the data that we are able to collect as part of clinical research is extremely important for the drug development and for finding new options for patients. Another important thing that we need to take into consideration is the life expectancy prognosis, which in many cases it's correct, especially in the final stage. But sometimes it's not. And I have seen personally this in clinical trials. In oncology clinical trials, sometimes we have patients with terminal cancer who have like 6 months prognosis, and then they end up living a lot longer, months, sometimes even years. It's quite fascinating in some cases that we see patients really benefit from a particular treatment. So I'm not saying everyone is going to benefit, but we've seen cases where people benefit from treatment, and we've always tried to understand why some treatments work for some patients and not for others. And basically this is the concept of the precision medicine, when we're trying to find out what works for the particular patient and identify the mechanisms and so on. So without having the opportunity to offer treatments to patients with advanced disease, this will inevitably affect the clinical research field, because we will have a smaller pool of patients. Maybe there's someone out there who has a very rare type of cancer, which might contribute a lot to research, and that person may or may not benefit from the treatment, but it could be really valuable. And another thing that we need to really think about is the participating in clinical research and the opportunity to contribute to treatment of future patients can give meaning to many patients. And particularly those that have terminal disease. I've seen it in questionnaires and in other clinical trials that we've had with patients who have terminal disease, and very often they say, well, I don't expect anything for me, but I'm hoping that this will, help someone else. And that's, it's a very powerful thing, and it really gives them meaning and how they see their treatment and their participation. So I really believe we should be giving that as an option to patients instead of just offering them the assisted dying option as maybe some kind of priority, because inevitably people will see it that way. If they're given very short life expectancy, if they know it will not get better, it will get worse, giving them that option is, for many of them, might sound like the best way and the easiest way out. And while assisted dying might look like a humane thing to do, many patients who had terminally ill family members or friends, of course, they understand this and they don't want anyone to suffer. I can completely agree with this. But we also need to assess the impact that this will have on the medical field, on drug development in general. And you can argue that only a small proportion of the patients will prefer assisted dying, but even if it's one patient who might benefit from experimental treatment, then it's one too many. And as I like to say, it's very easy to make that kind of judgments if it's not someone from your family, and to say, well, yeah, someone didn't get that treatment. Well, what can we do? That's life. But if it's someone that is close to you, then it makes a big difference, and we have to stop looking at people as a statistics because they're not. I hope that was an interesting perspective and view on the assisted dying and how it could affect clinical research. Thank you very much for listening.